Hey, what's up, guys? Been a while. Back for another review. Round 2. Now I'm a total sucker for accessories, new and old. I've built up quite a collection over the years. It seems like no matter how stupid or limited they are, I buy them in the end. Like, well, repeaters, custom game controllers, memorabilia, cameras, move, fighting pads, gun cons, Connect, Rock Band, trivia, cheats, modems, guns, Steel Battalion. The list keeps going. Don't worry, there's plenty more where that came from. But one of my favorites has always been the Sega Genesis Menacer. No matter how stupid this thing looked, I always wanted to have it on display. It's just got one of those what is that factors. Now this thing is pretty goofy with its 3 different parts. And this bastard takes 6 AAAs in its main part here. You get your red trigger button here, and then A, B, and C all on the front. Now the stock I tend to use all the time right here on the bottom. And you put this on top of your TV. But this sight thing is really stupid. I'm just not going to use this at all. The only major benefit over the Super Scope is that it had 2, one for left-handed and right-handed people. Now there were a few games released after the Menacer came out, but a lot of them were for the Sega CD. So today I'm going to be looking at 2 different games, the one that came with the Menacer, and one of the most famous, Terminator 2 Judgment Day. Alright, starting with Menacer, the game that came packaged with the gun, it contains these 6 mini-games: Pest Control, Space Station Defender, Ready Aim Tomatoes, Whack Ball, Frontline, and Rockman Zone. After a pretty easy calibration screen, you should be up and ready to play. Now I'm sorry to say, most of these games are pretty terrible, like Pest Control, where you defend a pizza from a bunch of bugs in the dark. Or Space Station Defender, which is a pretty easy point and shoot, kill aliens sort of game. Now don't get attached to this music, because it is in every single game, and it is horrible. And all the sound effects are pretty equally horrible, like Whack Ball, which is using your gun like a mouse, and it sounds like a tin can. Every game is super simple and real arcade cookie cutter. Although some are more entertaining than others, I still wouldn't play any of them for more than half an hour. The only one worth mentioning is Ready Aim Tomatoes, which has some familiar faces in it from previous Sega games. ToeJam and Earl do make a guest appearance, with familiar music and familiar enemies from the first installment. This game's pretty cut and dry. You throw tomatoes at enemies to try and build up a certain score to proceed to the next level. Now each level gets progressively faster as it scrolls from left to right, and really the only way to make sure you get everything is to get the rapid fire and just blast the whole screen. It seems kinda easy, but it gets really hard in the end. Levels just start whizzing past you, and you hope you manage to hit at least half of them along the way. There is one way to slow things down if you see the floating clock and shoot that, but it turns the whole screen red, and I actually have a harder time shooting enemies during this mode than I do in the regular mode. If you get far enough, it almost becomes unplayable at breaknecking speed and you barely hit anything. There are a few ways to take a break, but they're few and far apart and never there when you need them. And when you've had enough major bombardment, you finally keel over and you get a game over, which is kind of interesting, but a real disappointment. Moving on and looking over to the Terminator 2 arcade game. This game, although built for the Menacer, it was not necessary for gameplay. There's nothing really flashy about Terminator 2. You play as Arnold Schwarzenegger, and you start out in the future shooting lots of other Terminators as you try and get to John Connor. You'll be facing swarms of them popping up in your face over and over again like any other shooter. But in the first few levels, all it takes is a few swift bullets to take out pretty much anything on the map. The bosses are pretty uncreative, as you'll see the same ones several times throughout the game. You'll blow chunks of them off as you go down until it stops moving and then goes back into regular gameplay with lots of other Terminators. Each stage comes and goes with nothing super special about it, and analyzes what you shot and what accuracy. Although they do try and show some twists into the story. I don't remember Sarah Connor having to kill these guys. Also, I thought Arnold got all of his clothes from a biker gang. Why do all these guys seem to be wearing the exact same clothes? I mean, it's clearly the exact same guy. There's also two of these defender sequences, which are next to impossible with only one player. You almost have to have one person cover the bottom and the top at the same time. There's also some pretty cheesy sound bites. This is supposed to be John Connor right now. Move out! There are a few puzzles that won't let you advance until you figure it out, like this one where you find out you have to shoot the gate to get through. I don't remember Arnold having to deal with giant mechanical snakes either. Actually, one of the hardest bosses in the game is this stupid impenetrable door to the time machine. You have to blow up almost every moving graphic on this thing while it barrages you from all four corners with round missiles. Now this is when you meet up with the Connors and have to defend them from impending forces and blow up every piece of electronics you can. And I gotta admit, this kid can take 1,000 bullets to the face and not die. As soon as you make it to the chip in the arm, you're pretty much home free until the T-1000 shows up and screws up the rest of the game. Leading into a chase scene with a helicopter, which one touch will blow this van up instantly, which is really hard. Correct me if I'm wrong though, during this chase scene in the movie, wasn't Arnold actually driving the van? Wasn't it during the day? I could be wrong though, it's just me. All that aside, the final boss fight is pretty awesome in front of this liquid nitrogen tank where you try and freeze the T-1000 with shotgun shells. By hitting him with the liquid nitrogen, you lower his body temperature at the top of the screen's meter until he eventually freezes and breaks into pieces. Now the 1000 shows up in front of this pile of molten iron next to John Connor. And you've got to knock him down before he gets too close and uses a really cheesy hit move and kills him instantly. After you knock him down, he does jump up in your face. After you blow a couple of his eyes out, his head will split and he'll fall back to where he was. And the object you have to knock him as close to that metal as possible, grab one of the falling missiles, and then blow him in half so he falls to his death. And there's your one-sentence reward. So that about sums up this guy. Let me know what you guys think about this video, or if you have any suggestions on what I should review next. Have fun, be safe, and keep playing.